Our next stage is going to be counter battening our insulated frame. So we use a 50mm by 25mm roofing batten. Now the spacings of this depend on the finish, as I was explaining. So with our composite cladding boards, we like to go for a 600mm spacing between battens. With the roof sheets, we go up to 900mm between battens. It's slightly below the manufacturer's recommendations. They say you can go up to 1200. Seems a bit too much, so we don't want to cause any vibration on the building, so we go to 900. Okay, so to start with, we're going to do our horizontal battens. So again, we'll get to our corners, measure our width. Now obviously I'm using my chop saw to cut these battens to length. Don't need to go to the expense of buying a chop saw just for this. A normal hand saw or even a circular saw is more than suitable. Mark our length. Right, to fix our batten to the wall, we've obviously got to go through that 25mm Celotex board we installed and hit the metal frame. So I'm going to be using a 80mm long bay-pole screw just to make sure we get plenty of bite into the metal frame. For the bottom batten, I don't want that sitting directly on the floor. So what I do is get a couple of offcuts of our batten, put that tight to the floor, and then we'll set our first length of batten on them, just so we haven't got any issues with water ingress on that lower batten. We'll just check our first batten for level. So we're high at that end, so I'm going to fix that end first and then I'm going to raise that end up to suit. Now obviously if you're doing this over the length of the whole building, just find your highest point, generally set your batten there, work your way along. And now no different to the insulation board, if you've got a joint in the batten, because of the length of the building, just make sure you finish on a stud and then put a fixing on either piece of batten into that stud. Okay, so I forgot to mention earlier, when we're boarding out with the PR insulation, it's just important to mark our studs, just so when it comes to this stage we know where we're screwing into. Okay, now we've got our first batten in, that's nice and level. We just need to repeat that process up the wall. So as I say, we're going for our composite cladding on this example, so I want to do a 600mm centre. Now a nice little trick is to cut a couple of lengths of batten with the centres you want, and then you can prop that on the original batten and use it as a guide to work up the wall. So as I say, we want 600 centres, so that's going to be from centre of this batten to centre of the next batten. So we want to cut our spacers, the measurement of the centre minus the thickness of this batten. This can ensure we've got that 600 centre all the way up the wall. Okay, so now I've got my two spacers, they're cut at 550mm, so it's 550 plus our 50mm batten gives us our 600mm centre. We simply rest them against this existing batten, and that's going to give us our level measurement for the next batten. So this is all set up now. We've got our spacer battens off our original batten onto the new batten we're about to screw in. It should replicate level because our original batten was level, perfect. And then literally follow the process, screw into every stud as we work our way up the wall. We're left with a small little gap, so we want to put a batten right at the top just to take our board. Now this will depend on the roof finish fascia detail, which will get covered in another video. So the next detail we need to consider is where we've got corners or doorways, it's all the same. So what we want to do is infill this section here with batten as well. Just make sure we've got plenty of pickup points for corner trims, doors or windows. So the reason we don't put a bit of batten down here first is because if we had a full bit of batten here and then tried to come into it, we'd have nothing to screw this last little bit of batten to. There you are, whenever you come to an external corner or a door or window opening,